Hey maker, come behind the scenes with me in this week's video where I show you how to style and compose a flat lay for a planner. If this is your first time joining me, my name is Christina Nicole, and I am a product photography coach teaching makers like you how to take your own high quality product photos that actually attract more customers and make more sales for your product-based business. Okay, so here we have our setup. Let's cover a quick few things in regards to light. Light is going to be your most important factor, especially when it comes to shooting with a smartphone. So right here, I am using side light from a east facing window. So I've got a lot of direct sunlight coming in. It's about 1:40 in the afternoon. So depending, the sun's kind of coming and going based on the clouds. So depending when we actually go to shoot, I may have to add another layer of diffusion. So you will notice there's a layer of diffusion in the window here. I also have a layer of diffusion here on the studio. Now this is the Replica Studio. I am a Replica ambassador. I use and love all of their products. They're an amazing company. So this is the Replica Studio, and these are Replica surfaces. This is the Replica diffuser. And these are just additional surfaces I'm using to reflect light back onto the setup so we get a nice, even light source. If you're struggling with natural light, I have an awesome 5-day challenge called Light. Inside of Light, I teach you how to cure your crummy light symptoms. So all you have to do is click the link up here and get on the wait list for that. In this video, we are going to be focusing on shooting a flat lay, which means we are shooting overhead directly level. So I use the same type of light setup for flat lays as I do shooting straight on. You'll notice that I have my camera set to photo. We do not need to shoot in portrait when we are doing flat lays because essentially there is no depth. So unless you have your product lifted, then when we're shooting flat lays, all you have to do is shoot in photo. So right now I have the setup already composed and framed, and I kind of want to walk you through what I did and why. So you'll notice the planner specifically has ivory in it. So I went with kind of a neutral ivory background versus doing like a white or anything like that because I wanted to create kind of a similar contrast when it came to color. So kind of a neutral color, I wanted to have similar tones. You'll notice I also used pens that had similar tones to the purples that are actually inside of the planner. And by the way, this planner is by She Plans. Andrea is the owner and she is fabulous. These planners are super high-end and wonderful. Now to go with that high-end look, we are choosing very high-end props. So I'm going with gold-colored props. I'm going with high-end looking pens. You don't want to just throw any old pen or any old pair of scissors into a setup, especially if your product is on the higher price point range. Okay, so we have gold scissors. We've got pens that are a little more high-end. We've got gold-colored paper clips, and we've got some dangling over here. Now this right here is what we call the X composition. So it's super easy. If you were to draw an X on this setup, the product is at the intersection, and we've got props in the top left, top right, and bottom left. So it kind of creates this overall X look, and that is the X composition. This is a very super simple composition for flat lays. We're kind of creating equal balance in all four corners of this setup. Now I want to take you inside the camera quick and show you how if we were to actually kind of zoom in and frame this the way that we would actually have the photo. That's a great thing to do because then we can actually see if our framing is right. So you'll notice that I have this tray kind of directly in the corner. We're going to kind of create some equal spacing there with that tray so it's nice and balanced out. Move it in a little bit further. We kind of have a point on this tray, and the point is kind of pointing back to the product, which is nice because we want to make sure that we're kind of creating focus. So same thing with the scissors. The scissors are going to be pointing towards the product. The string coming off this stuff here is going to be pointing back towards the product. and keep it into the frame. Give a little space there between negative space. It's like just empty background space between the elements there. Right here, same thing. Our clips are kind of just pointing towards the product. You don't want to be too mechanical when it comes to all of this. You kind of want to just, you could even take them and kind of throw them naturally around. You don't want it to be too like overly staged. And I went ahead and went with 5s. Typically we want to do odds, rule of odds. 3s, 5s when we're pairing things together. That isn't 100% foolproof, but especially when you're using smaller elements, it's nice to have that balance of odds there. And then we've got our 2 pens in this corner. So a couple things to think about when we're doing this. We want to kind of look at balance when it comes to the number of props, or balance when it comes to color and weight. Weight can be distributed, color, texture, all kinds of different things. So we kind of want the image to feel equally weighted. So on this side, we've got 2 elements here. Now there's not, this side's a little, overall a little heavy, a little bit heavy because the colors are darker, but it's okay. And then we've got our gold and gold up here. We've got a lot more elements up here, but we may still scoot that back just a smidgen so it doesn't take up as much of the frame. And in doing so, we may also kind of move that back. More in the cusp of the scissors there. I don't want that to go off the frame because it may lead our eye off the frame. A lot of times we want to kind of, like I said, point back to the product, but again, that's not 100 proof. So I'm gonna kind of like that style a little bit more. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. I could flip these this way, but then we can see the brand of pen. So we want to try to hide any type of text, brands, anything like that, so it doesn't steal focus away from the product. Okay, you'll notice that I'm using a tripod. This is a tripod with a boom. A boom is just an arm that extends out over to do flat lays. If you're shooting with your smartphone, I highly, highly recommend a tripod because smartphones can have issues with image stabilization. So when you go to pick up the camera and actually shoot and press the shutter, you can create this motion and you won't get the sharpest photo possible. On top of that, I'm also using a Bluetooth shutter release. This is just the old Apple headset that came with the phones back in the day. The volume button, it captures the photo. It's a Bluetooth shutter release, okay? As I mentioned before, I am in photo mode, not portrait. Right now, I am zoomed in so that I can actually see the product and the props as a whole as I'm going to actually frame and crop it. So now I'm actually going to zoom back out for shooting purposes. So we're only going to have to crop out a tiny bit. I don't recommend zooming when it comes to your smartphones. First thing we're going to do is we're going to tap the screen. And you'll notice right in the center there, I've got lines across the whole screen. That's my grid. I have my grid turned on in settings. And when you turn that grid on in settings, what happens is you get a little plus sign in the middle. And you'll notice if I unlevel my phone, I have a yellow plus sign and a white. To be directly above level, you want that plus sign to be fully yellow, okay? That's what you want for flat lays, directly above and level. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna tap and then we're gonna hold into lock focus, okay? Right now, I've got some cloud coverage. So I've got 2 layers of diffusion going. My light looks nice and even. I can test that by increasing my exposure. And actually kind of, you'll see where I start to get blowout. Okay, there's a little bit more of a presence of the light on the left, but I don't think it's too much. So we're gonna bring that back down. And because we're using some highly reflective products here, I also want to double check and make sure I'm not getting any weird reflections of my scissors in any of the paper clips, anything like that, okay? And everything looks good, so I'm gonna go ahead and capture that photo. Let's check out that final image. Please take the time to like this video if you found it useful, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you want to learn more about taking your own high quality product photos. See you next time.